everyone. So this is my first modified car review for the channel. This is also the very first video review. So we're gonna try this. It's gonna be very shaky. What we have today is a 2004 Subaru WRX STI. This car is on coilovers, so it's gonna shake a lot. And it's pretty heavily modified. You'll see some pictures, hopefully some more video shots of it too. But this is my first time driving it since it's been done, actually, maybe even ever. I don't know if I've driven.
No, you drove it for rollers that one time.
I did drive it for rollers. Okay, that was when it was stock though, so it's not stock anymore. And it has a few quirks. We'll get into that later, but we're gonna set off right now. So first of all, I got to get used to this clutch. The engagement point is like right at the top, and in my previous video or in my previous reviews, you've seen me drive the Mustangs and everything, and it's just crazy how different the clutch feels. No, this is an aftermarket clutch, right?
Well, it's technically a stage 1 from Napa.
Okay.
Previous owner put it in, so I don't really know what it is. I don't know what it can hold, but
okay,
it's doing me well so far.
It's doing well so far. Okay. So yeah, there is quite a bit of rubbing, and that's okay. And I see the boost gauge already fell out, but that's okay too. Heavy steering. Okay. We'll do a little pull. Now, he mentioned a granny shift this car, and we have kind of a joke because every time I drove it last time, I would grind third gear. So we're gonna try and avoid that today. Now, this is an open wastegate, so I don't even know if you heard anything I just said because it is absolutely insane. But Eddie's done a lot of work to this car, and it definitely doesn't feel like anything that you would probably ever drive. You can tell just looking in the mirror, you can see the fender flares. They're very wide. Everything is stiff and raw, and you know, that's kind of the cool part about a car like this. You know, from the factory, it came pretty gutted out. The STI especially, you know, it was a little more of a track-oriented vehicle. So now that he's done all these modifications, it's even gotten more raw, and it's really intoxicating, all of the sounds that the car can make. And I didn't granny shift that time, so I didn't scrape that time, so that was pretty good. All right. The turbo noises that come out of this car are everything every car guy wants to hear. Now, one thing I do want to make note of is that the hood scoop on these cars is absolutely obnoxious. They look really good, but when you're driving, it takes up actually a lot more visibility than I had thought. And that mixed with the rear wing on the car, it's actually kind of funny. Every part of this feels like a race car. It doesn't feel like something you would ever buy from the factory anymore. And you know, when I did drive this car when it was factory, it still, you know, kind of felt that way in a way. But just now, you know, it shows how much aftermarket modifications can really change a car. All right, so now that I'm getting a little less nervous driving the car, you know, cruising around with it, it does take a little bit of skill to get used to driving. But I mean, that could also just be driver error as well. But I'm learning a little bit more. You can drive this car civilly. It's not something that's just got to be balls to the wall all the time. Running through the gears in an STI is immensely satisfying. It's so notchy. You can tell when you're in gear all the time, except third. But everything about it just feels well put together. Now, I'm a big thing. I'm big on build quality of cars. That's why I've always kind of strayed towards like German vehicles, because I've always thought they've had the best interior quality. Now the STI, it's very bare bones in here. You know, it's more of cheaper materials, but it still gives you a special feeling, which is actually a really, really cool thing. Because let's face it, these cars aren't cheap, especially if you get a true STI. I mean, a lot of the times they get the bro tax. So you end up paying quite a bit for them. And when you get them stock, you know, they're a well-performing car, but you sit in it and similar to something of other Japanese companies like Toyota and that sort of thing. Different styling, same quality of materials, but when you actually drive it, you will never drive anything quite like a Subaru. The all-wheel drive system is fantastic, and they did such a good job with delivering the power. You definitely notice turbo lag, and I know a lot of people hate it in a practical sense, but when it comes to racing, you don't really want turbo lag. However, when you're driving it around the street and you hit, just that sweet spot where all the boost comes on, it is absolutely intoxicating. And you can just keep going, and especially with an open wastegate like this, it makes everything so much better. People stare at you. I've already seen, as we were driving to go take pictures, there are people staring everywhere you go. So when you have this car, you have to realize that you are going to attract a lot of attention, especially when you throw white fender flares on a black car. It sticks out like a sore thumb, but in a good way. The coilovers perform really well, and not having power steering when you're actually up to speed is kind of nice. You feel definitely more engaged because you are, but everything just feels, way more, you're definitely in total control of the car at this point. Now this car does also have Brembo brakes on it, and they are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But yeah, on back roads with no power steering, it's something you really have to experience. If you're from our generation, everything has power steering in our generation. So driving something that is modified that doesn't have it, there's just something, I know that I say this a lot, something so raw about it. And you really have to try it to appreciate what it feels like. Everything is very heavy, but it feels direct, and I'm really, really impressed. Now, I'm not going to push it too hard because this car does have a sway bar that isn't fully attached. Still does feel very planted. And I'm not complaining about it at all. You hear the sway bar a little bit at like a low speed, but other than that, you don't really notice. Now, as far as ride quality goes in this car, it's very, very stiff, and I can't do this review like my past ones where I can compare it, to other vehicles, because this one's modified. It doesn't have the stock suspension. So it's very, very stiff. You can tell it's built to perform rather than just cruise around. That being said, I don't feel like it's breaking my back or my butt or anything like that. The Fortune Auto coilovers are some of the best in the business, and you can definitely tell. I came out of a Genesis Coupe that was on K-Sport coilovers, and it was harsh. Well performing, but it was harsh. Now these are harsh too, but they almost feel more forgiving than the K-Sports, which is weird because these are definitely more of a track-oriented coilover. They're more expensive. But I guess with that money, you're getting kind of the all-around package of it. Oh my God! No power steering. Let's go. There's the sway bar. that will never, ever, ever get old. I promise you. I feel like even if you were to daily drive this constantly, that noise would never get old. So one thing you want to note, if you do want to own one of these cars, so the aftermarket support for a Subaru is pretty crazy. So there are parts everywhere for these things. The biggest thing I want to point out to you though is the price. So Eddie got an amazing deal on his WRX STI. He paid $10,500 for this car, which is an astounding deal. You look on Craigslist, especially for this generation known as the Blob-Eye Subaru, they're probably selling for somewhere around the 15 mark. And I'm not saying that it's not worth it. It definitely is. But just make sure that this is, what you're looking for in a car. If you want a car that's, gonna really focus on driver engagement, and you're not really worried about, having the fanciest interior or anything like that. If you just want to go fast, have fun, and have something that if you really had to, you could drive in, bad weather like snow, the Subaru would be a great option. Its biggest rival is the Mitsubishi Evo, but from what I've seen is the Evo seems to hold its value a little bit better than the Subaru, which is weird because Subaru is named, you know, the top brand for resale value. But that's his main competitor. They're both all-wheel drive, turbo 4 cylinders. The one thing you won't get in the Evo is the amazing sound of a boxer engine. It sounds like nothing else. You talk to any car guy or car girl, and you could be sitting in your living room and you can tell when a Subaru drives by. You just know. If you're a car person, it's implanted into your brain what a boxer sounds like. So that's something you don't really get with like an Evo. But if you want something that's going to be, you know, a little bit more soft or a better daily that still has some power, I don't know if I would choose the Subaru for that, just based on its ride and, you know, road noise and that sort of thing. So I'm not knocking the Subaru at all. I'm just saying you got to be prepared for what you're getting into. And now, if you're comparing an STI to a WRX, I've seen this a lot online. So people say if you're gonna daily it, you're better off going with the WRX. They go for quite a bit cheaper than an STI. And while I agree with that, the STI with its better suspension, better brakes, that sort of thing, if you really want the true driving experience, you can't skimp out on this car. You need to get the STI. And the bump and power is actually quite noticeable between them. So, not to mention, you get all of the street cred when you go to car meets and everything because you have a real STI, not just a WRX with a wing stuck on the back. One more thing I wanted to talk about is the seats in this car. They're fantastic. So it's like this really grippy cloth material, and grippy it is, in fact, actually. So it has really good bolster support. Now, if you're a bigger guy or bigger girl, this will offer plenty of support for you. I like to think I'm pretty thin, so it doesn't quite hug me, but it does still hold me in place. And then on top of that, the look of the seats are just awesome. They're in this awesome blue, and on the black car, it really actually stands out quite a bit. So I really like that in the Subaru. Comparing it to its Evo counterpart, you get the Recaro racing seats in the Evo, and I believe those are like a leatherette material, and I definitely prefer these seats over the ones in the Evo. One, because they're not going to wear like the Evos do. You won't get, you know, stress cracking with this material, and two, just the color, everything just comes together in this car. Alright guys, so that concludes the video of the WRX STI. So I just want to hear your feedback on it. Like I said, this is my first time doing a video review, so hopefully this comes out well, and I will also be leaving a link to this video on my website and all of my social media as well. So stay tuned for more. I actually have a few more reviews I'm editing currently. But this one was like I said, my first time doing a video review, and it went pretty well, I think. Hopefully it's not too shaky. So thanks, and have a great day, everyone.